Hey guys, welcome to my first episode of Talking with Ant, and hopefully you'll subscribe and like the content. And yeah, let's get to the topic of the video, which is the fact that nobody makes enough money anymore. I mean, specifically on the minimum wage in this country. I mean, federally, it's like what, $9? What's still $7 federally speaking, and then even in a good state like California, New York, Cali, that $15 is just not going to get you far. I mean, on a bi-weekly basis after taxes, that's about like maybe 700, 750, $800. And then for the average American, they'll need a car because they're going to live in the suburbs. They need to pay rent, which is probably going to be anywhere between 1500 to 2000. They're going to have to pay for car insurance, car repairs, oil for the car, maybe a new battery, new tires at least every 2 years. So in general, all their money, literally all their money, just is just evaporated, and they'll have little to no chance of saving a single penny of that. And of course, the more money you make, generally speaking, the better you can save, the better you can manage all that. But it still is a struggle, even when you're making 50 grand in like a high cost of living area, like say New Jersey, California, New York. It's just completely, utterly a struggle to do anything, like legitimately anything. And it sincerely makes you think like, wow, like how am I actually able to like legitimately like survive out here? Because like everything is too fucking expensive. It just is too expensive. And when you think about it, how are we supposed to actually survive with these basically almost like slave-like wages while the price of everything goes up, especially with these Trump tariffs and everything outside of the US going up 25% effectively if we're right, if we're being real here, and then the stock market collapsing because of all this, and then the fact that like everything we buy as Americans, like 90% of it, like excluding groceries, just comes from overseas. It just blows my mind how we're just waltzing into a recession and how everything's getting much, much more worse and more pessimistic and awful. But yeah, back on the topic of wages. Let's say let's say you're probably like a top 10% computer science major in this country. So, and let's say you graduate with like a 3.5 GPA, right? Pretty smart, pretty good university, everything, all that. Assuming you're lucky, even then, you're only gonna make about maybe, honestly, about 20 to $25,000 when you leave university. And if you're probably like a top 5% computer science major, you can get like a better, much better first time job, like around 40, 50 grand before taxes. That's still is barely enough to pay for your rent. And if you do go out and decide to, get your own apartment, sure, it's liberating in that way that you can get your own place, right? You can kind of start your date and sex life, and you can kind of just like be the king in your castle and all that. But that financial difficulty of throwing your money into that radiator that we call rent, right? Because at the end of the day, you're wasting that money. It's not going to your 401k. It's not going to your Roth. It's not going to your savings account. It's literally just being burnt. Like it's literally the equivalent of like just taking those $100 bills and just burning it. Like just putting on the stove and letting it burn, or making like a campfire just so that you can like stay warm for a little bit. It's kind of funny in that way, but sincerely, like, how are you supposed to actually survive in this economy? Because like, unless you're a Nepo baby and you can work like a cute, silly $15 an hour job and you don't have to worry about it, then it's really not that bad. Because if you're gonna inherit like 500, $600,000, even if you live in somewhere like New York City or San Francisco, you can probably, with a full-time job, actually afford to live in those places, especially if you have roommates. Whereas like for people who don't have a huge inheritance coming, people who don't have those skill sets or the job market just doesn't exist, right? Like modern tech and finance markets, where effectively they don't need you, like sincerely, especially if you're a new grad, and also if you're an old graduate from like a decade ago, either they still don't need you because right now we're going through this massive like AI and remote work revolution where actual Americans, like mediocre American college graduates, aren't needed. And even some of the best graduates from the best universities still aren't needed because at the end of the day, things like hiring remote workers in third world countries and AI, as well as just, H-1B1 workers, introducing or bringing them into the country is absolutely going to depress wages and honestly kill a lot of jobs in so many sectors. Like, sincerely, like when you think about it in that way, it becomes a much more difficult task to actually like get yourself set up and to finally move out of your parents or out of out of that apartment with your three or four roommates and get your life together and to get a brand new car and just kind of socially advance, yeah, socially advance yourself up the ladder, right? And I think that's one thing that so many college graduates right now completely and utterly miss is the fact that like there's no stability. That ladder isn't really there for college graduates anymore. It used to be there, but now it's not. And it's almost like if you were, it's almost as if like it's like how Obama and basically not just Obama, but really most of our parents and friends, family friends back in the day would say, yes, go to university, go get that degree, go get that STEM or computer science or finance degree, you know, go in this XYZ field. It will not be oversaturated. There will be plenty of jobs. You'll start making six figures the moment you get out of, university. There'll be plenty of jobs, so and so. And honestly, looking back, the message should have been right then and there that these fields were going to be oversaturated and that obviously there wasn't going to be enough jobs in the deep future for all these new graduates. And now, we can actually see the writing on the wall. Obviously, that was the case, but no one really predicted or viewed that that was going to be the case. Not until like 2022 when Jerome Powell, raised the interest rates and tech companies and tech and crypto companies specifically just decided, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna start mass like laying off people everywhere. So yeah, you have the situation where there's just not enough jobs for everybody. There just really, really isn't, and it really puts you in like this unique, uniquely bad position, right? Like you really don't know what to do. And it's one of the worst feelings a human can really feel, where like for an entire decade of your life, you feel like you're going on the right path, and you climb the ladder, you'll get smarter, tougher, you'll have more skills, you'll be more valuable in the job market, and then suddenly, while you're climbing that ladder, just the ladder completely breaking and collapsing, and just landing on your flat on your back, and it's like, yeah, it's awful, it's fucking awful. And honestly, I have no personal belief that this job market is going to improve, specifically in the next 4 years. Considering that Kamala lost and Trump won, and he's trying to implement the 25% tariffs everywhere, it's completely utterly awful. It is god awful. Like, sincerely, how can a US president legitimately think that 25% tariffs is actually going to fix anything? It's not. It can't, because tariffs at the end of the day legitimately is like pointing a shotgun at someone who's like 500 feet away and expecting them not to do the exact same thing. Sure, it might not do some damage, but eventually one of those shots is going to land and it's going to hurt. And eventually, it's just going to put both of you in a very, very horrible, I want to say almost like traumatic situation that didn't need to exist. It's just so damn awful. But yeah, sincerely, this modern day economy really is just built for people with six figures. Or actually, not even six figures, people who make 120, 150 grand before taxes. Actually, may cut that after taxes. You go to a fancy restaurant, dance club, whatever, you get two things, two shots of liquor, whether it's two beers, two daiquiris, two margaritas, two cocktails, whatever. a cup, a glass of wine, small glass of wine, anyways, and it's literally like $20 per shot, and you're thinking like, what? No, it was at $20, and it's almost to the point where you might as well just get drunk before you arrive, and then when you get there, you can kind of just like, I don't know, eat so that you get less buzz. But it completely sucks how that's really the case. That really is the case nowadays. Everything's just too damn expensive. Everything is built from a seller's, from a buyer's perspective or consumer perspective, for those who are upper middle class who make, six figures after taxes each year. Particularly the households who do that, right? And sincerely, how why would anyone want to have a baby, a child in this economy? You can't afford to have a kid, you can't afford to take them to the doctor, you can't afford to feed them. It's just like it's such a ridiculous thing to think about, right? $250,000 per child. But sincerely, everything in this economy is built for people who make a lot of money. I mean, right now, like truck prices are like, what, a brand new truck is like six figures, which is so hilarious because like it doesn't even fit the price range for people who legitimately use trucks to haul stuff. Like legitimately, I don't think a construction worker is gonna buy a $100,000 Ford F-150 with rims that are super easy to fuck up, and it's literally just to show off when they enter a city, right? Like Dallas or San Antonio. Like, come on, come on, man. That's just so damn silly, so damn silly. But yeah, you just don't make enough money anymore. And recently, I bought a new DualSense controller, the PS5 controller, because my old one broke because of the stick drift, right? Like it wasn't my fault. Just 200 hours of playing games, it just broke magically somehow. And I'm thinking, like, man, after 200 hours, the controller broke. Like that blows my mind. Like back in the day, hell, to this day, I can like literally grab one of my 360 or PlayStation 3 controllers, and after what accumulated almost 4 to 8 thousand hours on those controllers, they still work perfectly. The buttons, especially the LBRB buttons, are mashed to like shit, and they barely click, but they work. But like them motherfuckers work. And it still blows my mind that like that's just like not like these new DualSense controllers and probably controllers of the future are just so breakable. Like they break magically. It's almost like they're made out of like glue. Like they're just so cheaply made to break. And it's just so awful. And it's also one of the main reasons why I just never buy third party titles on my PlayStation anymore. If it's anything that's third party, I'd either get it on my Xbox, on PC, and if it's a PlayStation exclusive like Spider-Man 2, I'll just get it on PlayStation anyways. But like, it doesn't make me happy, especially considering like how glitchy and rushed Spider-Man 2 was. Like, Jesus Christ. I was looking back at it, and thank God I only spent like $40 on the game. If I had actually bought it day one for $70, I'd be pretty fucking pissed. I mean, what, like, a game barely lasting you 25 hours on the main storyline, and then the side missions are so trash, and then it's just such a downgrade in terms of content and honestly, like just replayability compared to the first game. Actually, the first game had a lot more bosses and things to do, as well as a lot more villains to fight. I don't know. Spider-Man 2 just felt very underwhelming. Like, even though there was both Miles and Peter, it just felt like there was so much less to do. I really disliked that part. Ah, but yeah, no one makes enough money anymore, and it really does suck that there's like no solution to that except make more money, right? And people will go up to you and like be like, "Oh, just make more money." It's like, how? How do you like legally make more money, right? Like, let's not even talk about legal shit. How do you make more money? Like, like if you're making 15, 13 an hour, right? You're probably like a college dropout. You don't have any skills, like trade skills. You might be able to sell like some old video games and consoles, but that's about it in regards to selling stuff, right? And you just don't have that many skill sets or really anything unique in the market, in the job market, to make you stand out. So how do you make more money besides working more hours? And I understand the whole dynamic between the worker and the employer, where like the main thing the worker has to offer is their labor, their time, and the employer's obviously money, of course. But you really do have to stop and think for a second, like how honestly like messed up the imbalances between the employer and the employee. Because like right now, employers, especially after that 3-year bull run, have never had it this good. They've never had it this good. America's rich have never been this rich before. Meanwhile, the middle and poor class have never been this poor before. So something has to break. Something really does have to break because once like America's top 50% income earners just like stop spending money or start being more conservative and putting into like CDs and savings and the economy just really starts to contract, we are in a shitload of trouble, sincerely. And I don't think Trump is going to make anything better. He's just going to make everything worse, like he casually does. And I don't know if we're actually going to like like be in a better position in 3 years. Like I really don't know. By 2028, hopefully, maybe, Newsom, Gavin Newsom runs for president, or I don't know, anybody, almost anybody, but anybody. Like, all we need is one Democratic president, and this country is so damn back. But the crazy thing about it is that it shows how the US is such a hateful and crazy nation that they are willing to destroy literally the entire Western hegemony in exchange for just being racist and hateful and generally just being, yeah, just racist and hateful and misogynistic towards minorities and women and gays. It's like Americans are just willing to cut his own throat just for that opportunity. It's just so disgusting. But yeah, none of us can make enough money.